So it's a couple days later, and I think I mentioned I ordered my metal, or went and picked up my metal, and I thought 6 feet would get to, basically, this is half of what I need. So my big piece that goes up on top, this is the complete piece. Well, I estimated that 6 feet would go around that. Because I was too lazy to go measure it, I'm now going to pay for that. 6 feet will not go around it. It's really close, but it won't do it. So I've taken my my 12-foot piece, and I've made 2 even 6-foot pieces. So that is what I have to work with. And so what I'm going to do is measure from my center point, which is here, all the way down till I get 3 feet, and I'm going to make a mark. And I'm going to cut a straight line. I'm hoping it's going to hit about right here. And I'm going to cut a straight line, and then we're going to make do with what we have for the other stuff. So I'm just going to figure out where 3 feet is from here. I'm pretty angry. I have to go in and get a different tape measure. Pretty angry with myself for not measuring this. Let me go get a different seamstress tape. I might be able to make this work if I do it this way. I was just dumb. I want this to be, I may have to tape that. I want this to be exactly 3 feet, because I'm going to use those 6-foot pieces, and this is going to be my so-called jig. I'm sure the comment sections are going to be blowing up. Why don't you just use a pipe bender? Those of you who know me know I'm cheap. Spend all that money. Pipe bender. So that actually puts us down pretty good to where we are in the straight, what I'm going to call the straightaway. So for me to go on, weld on a piece, a tab that comes on that is not going to be a huge deal. And actually the sleeve will go about half of that anyway, so it's going to not be shouldn't be anyway, I guess I should say, a strength issue. So we get to, basically I'm going to just cut a straight line across, use this as my jig, or at least make this my start point. I wouldn't have to cut it, I could just make this my end start point. So I'll heat and bend from here. My plan is to just put the pipe there, clamp this, put this in the middle, heat and bend my pipe around, and then flip the pipe over and do the other side from the end around. And that should give us our curve, and then I'll just have to weld on whatever this is here, a couple inches, 4 inches of square tube onto the end of that. That's kind of just dumb, poor planning on my part, but that's the plan. So let me see if I can I've got some clamps, see if I can get this clamped up. I'm just planning on using one of these carport support posts. This one actually has been hit with a big truck, so we split it and had to repair it. So that's probably not the one I should be torquing on. And that one's got a big knot there, so let's see what this one looks like here. I wish we'd used 6x6 post here, but we didn't. This looks good. So we'll put our jig, our form, our mold up against that, and we'll use that to bend, hopefully, a pipe around. I think for the most part pipe benders are not, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, don't use any kind of heat or anything like that. I'm assuming you can, but I am going to use a big torch set, cutting torch with a non-cutting torch head on it, and I'm just going to heat this and keep the heat flowing as I continue to bend. and hopefully I will be able to have some success there. So that being said, let's see what I can do. Once the kiddo gets home, I likely will be taking care of that for a little while, and so I may be back out here in the dark, but that's the plan. And the boss is back, so let me get that set up and I'll turn you back on. So it's a few days later, about a week later than when I initially started this project, putting the hoop set on the double cab. And I wish I'd had the camera rolling when I took these bolts out, because I PB blastered them and put a little WD in there and just let them soak for, I don't know, 15-20 minutes. Every single one of them came right out. It's like, really? Worked perfectly. Should have had it on film. So they all came out, and they actually, the holes don't look that bad. And the nice thing about, this is, by the way, this is a 13 millimeter, I believe, bolt. And they're threaded on the back side, so there's no nut on the back side that you have to hold on to. And every single one of them, even though they're pretty rusty, just popped right out. And I have drilled the holes where these guys will go. And then I'm going to wait to drill this part. I've marked it. There's a mark here and a mark here. So I've marked it where it will be welded back to that little triangle piece that I'm going to weld in there. And this truck doesn't have the original gates on it. If you notice, this panel is shorter than these panels, and they should all be equidistant. This is actually a Benz double cab gate that's on this, the side gate. So in order to make that, to accommodate that 1 inch shortness, because a Benz double cab was actually, the cab itself was 1 inch longer because they made it off of a single cab truck. The company Michael Benz, that the coach builder that initially started building them for Volkswagen before Volkswagen built the double cab. So the gates on this truck are in pretty rough shape, but they're off of a Benz, and they were originally Dove Blue, which is a really desirable color. And I think they made most of the pop this up so you can see that. The Dove Blue paint is actually still under there, which is pretty cool. So that just kind of even more confirms that these are actually Benz gates that are on here. And I don't know how they got on there. I don't know if somebody just went to the junkyard in the 60s and said, I need a pair of double cab gates, and they didn't know the difference and threw them on there. But the reason for that story was this arm they have bent out to accommodate, to make up for this 1 inch spread. And so that kind of has boogered me just a little bit on getting that in. So I've got these at the lowest possible height to clear the gate, and that's how I've made my measurements. And then I have placed a level on it to make sure that I'm close, and I'm gonna live with that. I think that's good enough. And this little triangular plate I'm gonna weld on before I drill it out, because it's gonna be really hard to hold on to that guy. So I'm just gonna go ahead and weld it on, and I've marked it has to go in between those two things. So I'll weld that on, and then we'll put it actually up against the truck, and we can just mark it from the inside, because that hole comes in right here, and we can just mark it from there. So I've got everything marked where I need to grind, and then I'll have to remark it for where I need to weld. So I've marked, and you can see I missed back here. I wish I would have cut these a little differently. So when it's on here, oh, by the way, I drilled these holes perfectly the first time too. That never happens. It only happens when you're not filming. So what happens is there's a divot on the gate that doesn't allow me to put it center where I made that little triangular thing, and that kind of ticks me off, but I'm not going to recut them. I'm out of time. And so they'll never be recut, because I won't ever redo it again. But there's an indentation on this bed, and I don't know that it'll show up on the camera, but it kind of rolls in right here. So I can't have my rod on this side of it. It has to be on the inside of it. So when I put this here, I can't have my rod back here because it's hitting the gate. So it's got to go inside that indentation, which throws me off center. And the reason being because I couldn't center this, because now my side gate won't shut. It's going to hit So I slid it all the way over, used that as a measuring point, plus that allowed me to get both of them pretty much the same. So that's what we've got. I'm going to go grind down the areas I need to grind down in order to weld, and then we'll throw everything back up and remark for where we need to actually tack weld this stuff in. And then we'll paint everything, and I've got to get this done today. So these will be welded to the hoop set that goes on top. It's basically going to look just like this. And these will be welded inside that channel, and those will then drop down in here, and there'll be 2 bolts through them per side or per arm to hold those in. So I think my little hoarding child has run off with one of them, because I distinctly remember cutting 4. So I don't know where the fourth one has gone. I thought it might be inside one of these, but it's not. So let me get everything ground up, and I'm not going to be filming a lot today because I'm just trying to get things done, but I would like to get this part done and painted and then get started on the next section. Oh, to mention one little thing here. I did build a, really it's not a grab strack, it's a coat hanger, just to hang things or loop things through a jacket or something. And if you look, I don't know if you can see on that other side, let me step up here and maybe make it a little clearer on the camera. If you look, there is a threaded hole up on top, and then this big gaping wound hole down below. That top hole had a little white plastic like this, and it was kind of coat hook looking, I guess, like that, and they had like a little plastic cap that went over them on the end. And I have taken a drywall, a big fat plastic drywall expander screw, and I have put that in there with a washer behind it. You can see the washer. I don't like that washer makes it stick out a little bit, but that's what I did. And it doesn't look, and it doesn't move that much. It doesn't look perfect because these 2 screws are a little different. I used the original one that was in there. But it's functional, and I think if I put that other one up there, you're not staring at that gaping wound. So that's kind of my plan with that. And then back here, I think I'm just going to pull those out, the little plastic thing out, pull the screw out, and just put a washer up there for now. I don't know. I might make a way to put a curtain in here if we ever decide to let somebody sleep in here while we're camping. So, and I'm trying to devise a way to maybe use these bolt holes on either side and loop something over here that would grab on this and make kind of like a cot in this area. It's not a camper, I realize that. I didn't want a camper, but we do camp with it quite a bit, so trying to adapt it to what we need. So let me get going on this, and we'll turn you back on whenever we get the chance. So I got everything welded up and was grinding some of the areas, and a little button pushed down on the Dremel tool to catch, to lock the rotary part from spinning. You can change the tip out. Wouldn't catch. It was, I don't know if you can see on the end there, the nubbin's all worn off. And so there's a slot for that to catch, and it's worn the side out and worn the very top of it out. And so I'm just going to take the button out of the hole, and then you'll be able just to stick the end of another piece down in there to stop it. I've tore up about 3 Dremels. They're not as good as they used to be, and so I actually bought, this was my husband's grandfather's generic one, Craft Tech. And I will tell you one thing, this will outlast any Dremel that I've ever had. I saw the 2x4 in half with this thing, and it is one tough little machine. But I did wear out the button, so we're going to put this back together and then change out rotary tips here and get back to grinding. Either a really good welder or a really good grinder. Guess which one I am. So now when I want to change that out, hopefully you can see that, I'll just stick a tool down in that little slot, that little groove. No job is complete unless you have to work on something. So hopefully we get that fixed. Let's see. Shall we? Screw that back on there. Slide that over so we can stick this in the groove. Hopefully the groove is deep enough. We may be in trouble. Epic fail. I have to use a screwdriver. I don't know if you can see that or not. This one may be cooked. I hate that. Here, let me try sticking a screwdriver in it. What a pain. I don't know if I'm able to hold that. Can you guys hold it for me? Hold on to that for me, would you? Crazy. Groove isn't deep enough. If I could just get this loose. Yeah, let me get that out of there. Get that out of there. It does work. I don't know. That one's just, I just put that in there really tight, I guess. But I did get it out of there, and it does work if you don't put it really, really tight. Just stick another tool in there, and you can get it in and out without having the button. So temporarily solved until something else breaks on it. Stay tuned to get all the parts bolted up for the hoop set, which are all painted up nice and pretty like here on the back. So get those. There's a few spots I need to hit in the morning after it's warmed up a little bit where I had them hanging from the ropes, but turned out pretty nice. Pretty happy with that. So we'll get those bolted up and ready to receive our hoops that are coming across the top, and we'll jump on the canvas after that. But right now, let's see, luggage strap, a little long in the tooth, just because that's how they have to run them through the machine. So I had to cut them down and tack weld my pieces on the end just to make sure they fit right. So I cut 4 inches off of it, but they fit perfectly. I am very pleased with that. So I have just one bolt in on the brackets, and then just have those tacked. Got to finish welding those and paint them and cut my strip that goes across the top once the boards are in. So let's get busy. Thought I would go ahead and toss that canvas on while I have a few minutes and let you take a look at that. I would really like to get the rear pieces pinned in tonight. I say the rear. This end piece here and then the piece that has the window in it. Pin those on tonight if I can, and maybe start sewing on that. So I'm going to set the camera down, throw that canvas on, and I'll turn you back on.
Okay. Yeah.
It's cut apart so you can see all the pieces. You can see how everything works.
I appreciate your time, bro. No problem. You think you have more, man?
Be careful with it. Let's go back here and look at the engine. Come here.